Welcome back to Sueños to Success. I'm Dr. Victor Rios. Today's topic is breaking past self limits. And one of the ways to break past those imposed self limits is through positive self concept, to have that positive sense of oneself. And of course, to build a wolf pack. I don't know if some of you listeners out there have ever felt like you're standing on the edge of something great. Fear or self doubt is holding you back. Maybe you wonder if you truly belong in the spaces where success happens. That's not for me. Who do I think I am? Why am I trying to go in that direction of success? I don't deserve it. Today we're talking about breaking through these self-imposed limitations and finding the courage to take the leap toward your goals and purpose. Now, to help us, we got a heavy hitter here. He's going to help us dive into this topic. I'm honored to have my good friend, special guest here, former NFL football player, Love Jefferson. Hey, Love, how's it going?
It's going well. Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. You have an incredible story. In high school, you were told by a counselor that you weren't smart enough to go to college, but a teacher believed in you and supported you and helped you apply. And that connection changed everything.
Mhm.
Went on to play college football, Washington State, won a Pac-10 championship, made it to the Rose Bowl, and eventually even landed in the NFL. I want to hear a little bit about your journey there in a minute here, um, but for now, just want to welcome you and thank you for showing up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, growing up, like you're a little kid, right? Let's take you back to, you're in elementary school. You're running around the playground, playing different sports. Did it run through your head like I'm gonna be an NFL football player one day?
Uh, Absolutely not.
Mm,
Absolutely not. Uh, as a as a kid, just had a normal kind of lifestyle where we jump on the bikes, we go play at the park, we come back, mom or dad hoses us down when the street lights come on, and then we just had a crew of kids that we can always go and do things with. But as we started getting older and sports started becoming a little bit more focused on, I guess kids are starting to get a little bit more competitive. It became something that people would dream about. Other people would, but it wasn't something that I thought of.
so you saw people around you were like, I'm gonna be a football player. I'm gonna be a professional basketball player. You were just kind of living in the moment.
Absolutely. Those were all the good kids that I knew. Okay, this guy's going to make it to the NFL. This kid's going to make it to the NFL. But I was one of the worst.
What
So
do you mean by the word?
I wasn't a very good athlete at a young age. So when I started playing football, I was the kid that was tall, right? I was taller than most of the other kids on the team, very skinny, but I was light in the pants, what they would say. So if they put a hit on me, I'd fold. And so everyone liked going up against me because they'd always win. So I was always the one that was one of the weaker, non-experienced, players on the team.
At what stage did it flip? At what stage did you feel like, hey man, I got something?
You know, I th- it wasn't until high school. So playing, Pop Warner Little League, um, it wasn't anything that I thought I was going to be great at. And once I got into high school, I didn't plan on being good. But when I did go into high school, I was one of the bigger kids. Everyone was fairly new, and I was familiar with the game enough. And so I became one of the standouts as a freshman in high school.
Mm. All right, so you get to high school, you're playing football, you're a standout. Now people are talking serious, like, hey, I might play college football one day, or I'm going to play college football one day. You're thinking about college football in that moment?
No,
Wow.
absolutely not, because we were not a very good team. We were the worst team in the league. No one had ever gotten a scholarship, an athletic scholarship, out of our high school in the history of the high school. There were other schools where there were kids that we knew were tracked to go and do well. There was a guy that went to Stanford, another one went to Notre Dame, and some of these other schools. But it wasn't anything that was going to come out of our high school. And so it was kind of a far-fetched idea. We just enjoyed playing. Like football was a thing that kept us off the street, right? So we were going to practice, going to weights. We had something to do in the summer. It was something that we can do rather than, being out there getting in trouble in some other way.
Oh, so tell us a little bit about your family background, because you just mentioned like football was something to keep us out of the streets, and I know that you grew up with a family that was working class family
Mm.
that's making ends meet and raising a big crew of kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So my mom was born in 1944. So this is like the closeout of the war, right? And she's from American Samoa. So uh, she spoke little to no English when she came over from the island against her wishes. You know, my father was born in 1949. From Jackson, Mississippi,
Hmm.
right? So he had seen and experienced, everything that we're witnessing or that we've heard about in the history books,
Hmm.
right, all the way through the '60s. And then he decided, I think he was 17 or 18, to go west and head to Los Angeles because I had an uncle who was in the Air Force. Came out to Los Angeles in '68, rather than going Chicago north or staying in the South. And that was the thing that kind of switched it. He was in search of, okay, what's this new life look like? What is this new promise? I can't do it here in the South. So let me head west and see what happens. And that kind of where everything started to shape up in LA when he bumped into my mom and they decided to, get together and raise a family.
How many siblings?
So there's five total.
Okay.
So there are four boys and one girl, and I was the second youngest. So it was like it's so funny, feeding all of us, and I'm the runt of the litter.
Just so people that are listening, if you can't see the video, right, you see that Love Jefferson is a lot taller than me and a lot bigger than me. And you were the runt.
Yeah,
He's an NFL player size, is what I'm saying,
yeah,
folks.
yeah. I was the runt of the litter, and so it was like everything that they made or we cooked, it would be in large vats or pots, and so it's like if you got to the spaghetti pot last, like you're just trying to sop up the rest off the bottom with some bread, and so everybody ate, and it was one of those things where it's just feeding five or four healthy boys and a daughter. It was our folks really did it.
Wow. So okay, so you're in high school. Your team's not that great. No one's ever gotten a scholarship for football to go to college on that scholarship. You um, are heading towards the upper class years, junior year, senior year, and you're trying to investigate if college is for you.
Mm.
Tell me about that process.
Yeah, so it was a teacher who had seen me play, and she used to call me the wind because it was like one game. I caught the ball and no one was blocking, but I ran it for a touchdown, like on a kickoff. And then they did it, and we lost by like 50 points, but I was able to get a touchdown on the board. And the next week at school, she's like, "Wow, you run like the wind." She's like, "I'm gonna call you Wind from now on." I'm like, "Okay." And so she was always talking about, have you ever thought about college? And I'm like, no. She's like, well, you can use your athletic ability in order to, go to college for free. It's called a scholarship. And I said, oh, that sounds great, and didn't think anything of it. Well, then the following summer, started getting these recruitment letters from all of these different colleges. And the coach just called me and he said, I don't know where these came from, but they have your name on it. Go take it home and have your folks, look at it and sign up for it. And so I took them home and I showed them to my father and my mom and saying, hey, these are some letters from university. It was USC, it was everyone. And my dad just didn't see it. He's like throw those away. We don't have money to send you to college. And like he didn't understand that somebody or a school will actually pay for athletes to come. He just never understood that or didn't know. And so I went and talked to this teacher, and she she helped me understand that, we got to get those back out and then see what happens from there.
What was the teacher's name?
Miss Nelson.
Miss
Yeah, Miss
Nelson.
Nelson. She taught Latin, and she's like, "All right, so you gotta take foreign language." And I'm like, "Okay." And I took French my first year because I tried to be cool, thinking that I'd be speaking French. That didn't work out.
What did you end up taking?
So then my sophomore year, I didn't take a language. I needed two, so I had my junior and senior year to make sure I had a language. And so I started thinking Spanish, but she's like, no, you need to take Latin or I would like for you to take Latin because it would help out with your SATs. And I'm like, what's the SAT? She's like, it's a test that you need to take in order to go to college. And so I'm like, okay, but I thought Latin had something to do with Spanish. I didn't know it was like Homer and the Iliad and the Odyssey and all these things, but I ended up taking Latin.
So you got this teacher that's advocating for you and calling you the win and seeing something in you where she's developing a positive concept of you that you're not even seeing yet. And you're like just following kind of her leadership on it. I know you go to a counselor one day to tell her that you're getting ready for college, and what happens there?
Yeah, so this was prior to getting into Miss Nelson's class. I went in to go apply for the Latin class, and I didn't get it. And so I was wondering why I didn't get it. Went into the office and spoke to this counselor. I'll leave her unnamed. But for those who went to Bolsa, she drove the Corvette. And she said, no, I didn't give you the class because that class are for people who are planning on going to college. And I said, no, well, I'm planning on going to college. She goes, you think you can go to college? You don't do well in school. Well, I could possibly get a scholarship for football. No one's ever gotten a scholarship for football. I don't think Latin's for you. You should figure out another class to take. And so growing up Polynesian, we respect our elders. It's just the thing we do. So I accept her response as, that's the way it's supposed to be. And I go and tell Miss Nelson, she says, go have your mom come advocate for you. And I'm sure you'll be able to get into the class. And so that's what happened. Went home, mom took off work. And my mom worked a lot. So she had a full-time 9 to 5, and then she did overnight live-ins as a nurse. Wow. So we rarely saw her, and education was massively important to her. She was top of her class as a kid. She was valedictorian as in high school. For a nursing program, she was valedictorian. So education was like, she's all about the books. But she wasn't home, right, enough to help me, I would say myself, understand the things that I was falling behind in through my educational process.
So she shows up to the school.
She shows up to the school and she says, in her thick Samoan accent, my boy wants to take the foreign language class, so he can go to college. And you said no. And this counselor said, oh, no, I didn't know he had plans to go to college. I didn't know. Like, she totally denied it in front of me. And I'm just looking like, wow, so adults lie. And it's just one of those things. And anyhow, she gets us into the class. And then from that point on, it was like, off to the races.
Yeah, so off to the races. So you finish school, finish school, you go, you get to college, you go off to NFL. A lot of people see the highlights. They see, these elite college players. They see the NFL football players. They see the amount of money people are making. But what they don't always see is the struggle, the sacrifices, and the mindset that got you there. Even more importantly, how that journey led you to your true purpose today. So before we get into that work you're doing, because you're saving lives in your day-to-day work, let's go back to the beginning, right? Before the Rose Bowl, before the NFL. Let's talk about like how it all started, and you're taking us back here to, high school. You're taking us back to this moment where maybe someone told you you weren't smart enough, but luckily you had your teacher, you had your mom advocating for you, right? And you start to develop a mindset of a positive outlook. And I know in a lot of the work that you do, you help people develop a mindset of optimism and a mindset of a positive self concept.
Mhm.
In other words, I'm not going to talk bad about myself. I'm not going to see myself as a victim in this universe. I'm more than a victim. I'm a survivor. I'm a thriver. How did you develop that mindset for yourself?
I have to give a lot of it up to my father.
Mm,
Yeah, my father was he was um, he was one of those kids that academically wasn't strong, but philosophically, the way he saw the world
mm,
was just in massive quotes and in a special way. And so he would always drop these isms and some quotes with us that last to this day. And every time we're all sitting around, all of us will bring it back out and say, Pop, it worked. And so um, one of his was whenever anyone sees you as something, like I see you as Dr. Victor Rios, I see you as a um, inspiring person, I see you as a great husband, a great father, I see you as whatever they see you as, good or bad, understand that you're more than that,
mm,
right? So when people would see me in a certain way, I just understood, yeah, I'm that and I'm more than that, And so it was really establishing identity. I
mm,
think identity is a thing that really influences mindset. And so it's either know who you are, like understand who you are, or the world's going to tell you who you are.
mm,
And so when we start moving into college, sorting that out, that was the challenge in college was kind of sorting who was I? Because I was just a kid from Garden Grove who is now in, Pullman, Washington, and there are kids from all over the world, all over the country that now I'm interacting and engaging with. And it's not my crew of people. So
mm.
I had to kind of figure out who was I, within that
Yeah.
space and environment.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about college because some of our listeners, they're young people that are trying to first generation college, trying to navigate college. And once you made it to Washington, what was that experience like? Were you um, sort of seeing yourself as a like someone that was going to get through pretty easily? Were you seeing yourself as someone that was in an environment that was like, wait, do I even belong here? Did you have a little bit of that imposter syndrome?
No, I fortunately enough for me is because I was a part of an athletic team. And so we had a tribe of players. Like we were all there doing the same thing for a certain purpose. Like something that I would say when I arrived to college, um, I didn't realize the scope of how much that would change my life and how much that would change the lives of my kids that
Mm,
weren't even born and my grandchildren. Like I didn't understand just being there, you're changing your future,
mm.
right?
How so? Because nowadays people love to talk about how college is a bad
Mm.
investment. You end up in college in loan debt. The degrees don't even work. Like you don't even get a real job with a college degree. But I like to, correct that false information because the statistics show it. When you get a college degree, and there's high unemployment, that protects you. When you get a college degree, and other people are competing with you for a job, you're 5 times more likely to get that job.
Mhm.
A lot of times we don't talk about college and even loans for college being a good investment and investing in yourself versus say a car loan, which is a bad investment, and an investment, say in a luxury car as a vanity investment, right? Many times nowadays, people are putting down the idea of college, but you're saying for me, it was going to change generations to come. How so?
Well, none of us had gone to college. No one in my family had gone to college. We were first gen. So um, I end up going to college and getting a scholarship. My older brother goes to college out of the junior college, go to college to get a scholarship. My oldest brother, who was just working at the age of 25, decided to quit his job and then go to the local junior college. And we said, play football, get yourself a scholarship. They're handing them out, man. You know? And he comes at 25, he earns himself a scholarship, and then he goes over to Alamos. So now we got 3 college students in the house. And when we look back at it now, both of my nieces are both in university. Another niece just graduated from TCU. Another one's going to graduate from Baylor. Got a nephew who's down in Point Loma. Uh, my daughters are, we're having those conversations of which college do you want to go to.
How old are they now?
14 and 13.
That's so cool.
So they're already thinking, one wants to go to BYU because she has a friend who wants to go to BYU. I'm like, yeah, great. That's a conversation. You can go wherever you want to go. But that would have never happened had I not gone into college, which I view as a microcosm of life. It shows you, how to get up, be independent, be responsible for what you need to do, feed yourself, jump on public transit if you need to, because you don't have a car, and problem solve in a safe environment over the next few years. Learn something, be in an environment where everyone's there learning something. And then after that, you should be better prepared for what the real world, the real world, has waiting for you.
I feel like college, it does prepare you in some ways for the work world, but in a way that you don't realize you're being prepared. So, like for me, like it's not like college prepared me for my job. First job was helping, you know, teenagers that were getting in trouble in school, and I was at a community center, um, helping them out, doing outreach, going out into the streets looking for them when they weren't in school. And they didn't teach me that in college. I had to learn on my own how to do that day to day work. But what I did learn in college was, say, for example, some psychological methods.
Mhm.
And those psychological methods, I used them on the street corner when I was trying to get a kid
Yeah.
to go back to school. And it was kind of like going back to that positive self concept. When you talk to someone that's fatalistic, right? Someone that's giving up on life and saying, man, I got no future. You started to pull strategies like, hey, man, like, what about your family?
Mhm.
What about your mom? What about your little brother? Don't you want to don't you want to shine a light for them? You start to kind of bring in the strategies you learn in college. At least for me, taking a lot of psychology classes and applying them in your own way in the community that, in this case for me, that you come from. And so many times I think we think college isn't going to prepare us for the future, but it allows us this opportunity to see the world in a different way and to think for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's why I think in our work a lot, you and I get to work together a lot. Take a moment here to just appreciate and describe kind of the work we've been able to do. We've been working together for about a decade now,
Yeah.
and our work has even been featured in the film, the Push Outs, which aired nationally. We were working in Watts with some young people, all
Mhm.
volunteer work we did. And I'll take people back to the moment where we first met. And I remember, I was giving a talk somewhere, I think it was Long Beach,
Mhm.
and it was a long time ago, and I was giving a talk on this stage, and then you came up to me after, and that was the first moment I met you. And you're like, "Hey, Dr. Rios." I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" "Oh, my name's Love." I'm like, "Oh," and I hesitated to say it back because I didn't know if that was actually your name, but that was your name,
Yeah.
Love.
Uh,
I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up, Love?" And I remember, we had a good conversation. You told me about the work you do, a professional team builder, someone that goes out to different companies and, the private sector, but also public sector, education, nonprofits. And you help leaders see how to build stronger connections with either their employees or with students. or what families or community,
Hmm.
because it's in connection that human beings thrive.
Right.
You're telling me about this. I'm all kind of caught up in that moment. And do you remember that moment?
I do. I do. I remember because it was life changing for me because I was usually the guy in front of the group inspiring people, right? And this was the first time that I'd gone somewhere because a cousin had said, "Hey, you should check this out. They're having this conference. You should go look at it." And I went, I sat in the front seat and hearing your story and you doing your thing, like I was inspired. Like I started feeling something. So usually being the inspirer and then now being inspired, that's why I had to chase you down because it was just something that moved me so much that okay, I at least just have to tell this guy. And so that's when I came after you and we had that exchange. And it's funny, like when you turned around, Dr. Rios, you turned around and it was like your chin was still up. Chin was up, like, what's up? It was almost like, what's up, fool? Like, what's this fool? But you were still, in your professional deal. And we introduced ourselves. And I just said, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm usually the guy inspiring, but you inspired me today. And you're like, so what do you do? I go team building. And then we started getting into the conversation. And then when we were done, I remember this. I was moving on this metaphor and this analogy of wolf packs, right? And like, um, I said, "Hey, so are you a lone wolf?" And then you said, "Yeah, I'm a lone wolf," because that was like the strong thing to do. I'm like, "You know what happens to the lone wolf?" And you're like, "No, what happens?" I go, "It goes into the woods and dies."
Mm, I
I'm like,
remember that moment.
uh,
That that hit my soul, man.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you said it. You set me up because we take pride sometimes in being lone wolves, right? Like I made it on my own. Nobody helped me. Uh, I was left on the streets. I raised myself. I raised my siblings. Or my sibling raised me. You know, I, you know, the world was against me. It was me against the world, and I still made it. And now I'm raising my family, and now I have a career, and I have this, I have that. I'm a lone wolf. And I remember that moment, man. You hit me with that, and it was like I thought I was supposed to have pride in that, and you helped me flip my mindset because you were like, actually, you know, let me put you on game with a different mindset.
mm.
So what's that different mindset that you put me on?
Yeah, I mean, think about this. Like, wolf have to survive and they're the apex predator, right? So they have to survive. And so they have to do it in a pack. And everyone has their roles because they're trying to bring down buffalo with their face.
Hmm.
That's all you got. No arms, no nothing, just their face and strategy. And so that's why, and we learned a lot from them. Human beings learned a lot from the way packs move and they operate. And that was just something that helped me understand, okay, what I need to do. I need to figure out how to build a pack of people, that I'm willing to go hunt big game with so that we can survive the winter and we can take care of those that we loved. And so that was something that I was just offering as some sort of insight
Yeah,
on,
that was good insight.
yeah,
Because then after you said, yeah, he goes off into the forest and dies. I was like, damn, I don't, I don't want to be the lone wolf. I mean, I pointed to you. I said, I've been looking for you, man, to
yeah,
be part of my wolf
yeah.
pack. And then we put together a volunteer project
Mhm.
and Watts with young people that were getting, that were out of school, dropped out, pushed out. And man, we made magic that summer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, with a big wolf pack. We recruited a big wolf pack of volunteers, incredible human beings that went out there with us. And we were like, hey, we got no money. We're not being paid. We're putting this on our credit cards, but we're gonna help these young people out.
Yeah.
And film crew happened to be hitting us up about something else, and we're like, hey, come check this out. And it got turned into a film, and these young people, a lot of them to this day tell us how their lives changed
Oh, yeah.
because of that project. And then from there we've just been We've been in Hawaii together. We've been to Texas together. We've
Mhm.
been to a lot of places together, kind of um, guiding young people, guiding leaders, um, education communities on how to create ecosystems of cariño, ecosystems of embrace, where wherever you go, if it's a workplace or a school, house, you're going to feel a sense of belonging. Your component is the connection piece. You're always like teaching people how to connect, and you do it in a very physical way. You get them to stand up and do circles and activities and games, and you gamify the experience of making sure you always make people feel like they belong.
Mm,
And you have a rule, you call it the platinum rule. Will you
mm.
tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the platinum rule is an upgrade of what we all have grown to know as a golden rule, which the golden rule is treat others how they want to be treated, and or treat others how you want to be treated, right? And so we all know that people are different, right? And some people are a little bit more thick-skinned, and some people are a little bit more introverted. And so if I'm a thick-skinned person that talks directly, and I just want results, and I treat other people the way I want to be treated that way, and someone else is maybe more of a process-oriented person or someone who needs a little bit more, human connection before they dive into whatever the task at hand may be. If I'm dealing with that person in such a way, then there's going to be some disconnect, or there might even be friction, amongst the group, the team, community, family, whatever it may be. And so the platinum rule is, treat others how they want to be treated.
Mm,
So then that means that I have to take some sort of interest in who the human being is to see how I can best treat them. And the reason why we're in this relationship is because we have something tied at hand that requires us to work together, to live together, to be together, right? So if it's a total stranger, you don't have to worry about it too much. But if it's someone that you're working with or part of your group, club, family, or team, then we need to treat them how they want to be treated.
mm,
So sometimes
yeah,
just asking that, hey, what makes you tick or what ticks you off? You can bring
yeah.
that out.
You put me on game to a lot of stuff because that rule, uh, it helped me in my relationship with my wife. And, I just filmed a podcast recently with her about healthy relationships. And I've been applying this platinum rule in our relationship because I'll give you an example. Um, it was her 30th birthday, and I threw a big party, man. I invited everyone and their mama,
Mm,
and just random people, like people she didn't know, people I didn't know. Just come. It's Rebecca's 30th, right? And I had a little band playing in the little tiny living room space, man. Um, and people were coming, going. I don't know, 150 people, man, in this tiny little home, right? And after the party, I'm like, "Hey, did you have fun? That was amazing." And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "It was okay." And I was like, "Wait, you don't sound as excited as me." And she's like, "Yeah, I think I would have just rather have like dinner with you and my mom, my dad, and my sister and a few other people."
yeah.
And then I couldn't understand it.
Mm,
And then when I heard you talk about the platinum rule years later, I was like, "Oh, I've been treating my wife how I would want to be treated. The
mm,
golden rule. I got to treat her how she would want to be treated."
mm,
And it got me to ask more questions.
mm,
It got me to be in tune with what it is she likes and she sees as serving her
mm.
rather than what I think is better for her because it's something I would want to have. And so now we go, work with leaders and we teach them how to incorporate the platinum rule
Yeah.
in in the workplace as leaders because um, when you're in tune with the people you lead at that level, that emotional intelligence that is at its highest possible point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the most important part of it too is not learning about other people, but it's like, who are you? You know, learning about, okay, what's your style that you don't recognize or know that's your style that you're expecting other people to see and understand. So first, look in the mirror, find out who you are, what you are, and then you can start looking out the window and try to figure out who people are and what they are. But you got to do that mirror work first.
Mm.
You know?
All right. We'll let that sink in for a minute and we'll take a little break and come back. I'd like to take this time to introduce you to my book, Street Life, Poverty, Gangs, and a PhD. Check it out. It's on Amazon. It has my own journey and some helpful advice on how to overcome adversity. Welcome back. We're here with Love Jefferson. We're discussing the idea of a positive self concept, the idea of having a wolf pack. I know we got a little bit of time to talk about how the self concept really makes a difference in our lives. And I know you had that journey to the NFL. I know now you help people understand how to be leaders, have self awareness. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the research in self concept, just to let folks know how important self concept is. Studies show that the way we see ourselves, our self belief, and outlook on life can determine our success more than talent or intelligence. So think about that. Our success can be determined by a positive sense of self more than even our talent or intelligence alone. There's a study published in Educational Psychology Review analyzing over 200,000 students around the world, and it found that students with a strong positive self concept consistently achieved higher academic success, even when factors like intelligence and socioeconomic background were accounted for. So, in other words, you could have be low income, high income, you could have high IQ, low IQ, and you're still going to achieve more regardless of where your income is or where your IQ is if you have a positive self concept. The research highlights that self belief and mindset can be stronger predictors of success than talent or intelligence alone. There's another study, longitudinal, following people for a long time. This was published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. And that study found that students with high self esteem were 30% more likely to persist in their studies compared to those with lower self esteem. So I want those of you listening to think about, am I someone that's constantly putting myself down? Or am I telling myself, I got this, I believe in myself, and I know I'm going to achieve greatness? So the study emphasized that self worth and resilience play a critical role in long term academic and personal success. So Love Story is a perfect example of how a single moment, right? One conversation, that teacher that taught him that that positive self-concept was going to be important for his trajectory, shifted his mindset, right? And that could change everything. So instead of internalizing the negativity that maybe the counselor discussed with him, right? The counselor that told him, hey, you don't belong in that class, he internalized the positivity of his teacher, right? That belief in him. And that launched him into a different trajectory. In his case, college and the NFL. Another 20-year longitudinal study published in a book by Dr. Martin Seligman called Learned Optimism found that individuals with a positive outlook on life were 48% less likely to develop depression compared to those with a pessimistic mindset. So I'm gonna just tell you, folks, you live in a victim mindset, you're gonna have a higher experience with mental health challenges, mental health issues. if you have a positive outlook, that's going to help be a deterrent to a lot of those depressions, anxieties that you might experience in life. The study highlights that optimism serves as a protective factor against mental health challenges, reinforcing the importance of cultivating a positive perspective. A lot of folks, they don't believe in this optimism, right? Why should I be optimistic? It's a joke sometimes to be optimistic, but the research shows it, right? If you're optimistic, you're likely to beat those mental health challenges. Another study published in American Psychologist found that optimists were 35% more likely to recover faster from stress and setbacks compared to those with a more negative outlook. The research emphasized that optimism enhances mental resilience. So, this allows individuals to navigate challenges with greater emotional stability and adaptability. So, there's a lot more research out there, but I just wanted to share a little bit of the research. When you shift from thinking, I can't, to I will, your brain adapts. Studies show that optimistic thinkers build stronger problem solving skills, stress management strategies, and emotional resilience. So I wanted to ask you, Love, man. Now you're hearing the research. You're someone I know has always got this positive mindset, and you're contagion people with a positive mindset. Give us a little bit of your wisdom. How do you maintain a positive mindset even when faced with adversities that just everyday life gives us?
Yeah, I'll tap into what we spoke about earlier with college. Um, College and going to university granted me the opportunity to see things and know what they're called, but I felt, right? So finding the name of certain things that I felt, like
Mm.
understanding stress creates cortisol. Cortisol moves us into this fight, flight, and freeze type of, response, right? And so I look at I never want to be stressed, but I know stress is present constantly. I'm under a lot of pressure all the time. I'm always feeling stressed. But then it's that mindset shift, like I can to I will. It's just thinking of it, looking at the negatives, whatever has a negative connotation, just divorce it and figure out a new way to explain what it is. Like with my kids, the word I can. I'm so glad you brought that up. They say, Dad, I can't open this jar. I'm like, no, sure you can, but can you explain it to me in a different way? Dad, I'm having a difficult time opening this jar. I'm like, okay, so what do you need? Would you be able to help me open the jar? So, yeah, you can open the jar. You're just going to need some help to open the jar. But when you say, I can't open the jar, and then you need me to come and save you and suggest what needs to happen, then that's when we can move into more of this victim state that seems normal, when everything's negative. I look at negativity in our thoughts, negativity in our behavior. All it does is it connects to cortisol and it just creates stress. And stress is a killer. Like even with my kids, we talk about stress and we talk about what's happening in your body. So right now you're feeling something, you're breathing heavy because you're stressing out, and that's called cortisol. And there's also something that you need, which is called oxytocin, and that's the love hormone. So come give me a hug. And then I give him a
Yeah.
hug, and it's like, I go, you feel that? I go, so you feel better. So understand that there's something you need when you're under pressure. Don't let stress dictate how you interact or engage or respond to the world. So that's what I look at. I try to stay um, stress free under stress all the time.
Yeah. Stress free under stress. Easier said than done.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
but
For
but
sure.
things happen. Things happen in life, and you can see yourself as a victim of the universe, right? Or you could see yourself as a survivor of all this negativity that's been imposed on you by the universe, or you could see yourself as someone that got done wrong by the universe, and now, despite that, and because of that, you're going to use that as your stepping stone to thrive.
Mhm.
So, in our work together, we take, students and leaders through this notion that we could be in the victim category, we could be in the survivor category, or we could be in the thriver category.
Mhm.
And just always elevating to being that thriver that has the power to overcome these obstacles, these adversities. Nowadays, you talk about oxytocin. We're in a very polarized society, polarized world.
Mhm.
You turn on the news, you see a lot of negativity out there. People are stressed, man. People are stressed. Left and right, man. I see people stressing and their cortisols are elevated, dysregulated,
Mhm.
you know. And our journey, man, I think I can say that is about helping people just regulate, helping people build that oxytocin. And one of the ways that you have helped people develop a sense of um, positivity, right, of feeling good and having the resourcefulness to solve their own problems and maybe help other people solve their problems is through building community,
Mhm.
through connection, through the wolf pack.
Mhm.
And in many ways, the wolf pack also is another way for you to get your dose of oxytocin.
Mhm.
You talk a little bit more about some of your work you do with organizations and schools on building connection and why that's so important.
Yeah, connection um, is the driver to success for any type of society. Because one thing we people are everything. They make it, they buy it, they sell it, they promote it, they consume it. People are everything. And so, if people are everything, how could we not look at every single person out there in the world as some sort of resource that we can tap into, be a part of the network in order to, create growth, for ourselves. So connection, it's like imagine this is the way that I imagine myself whenever I'm doing trainings is connection is a transfer of like electricity, if you think of it like a socket, right? And so we're in a classroom. Imagine we're in a classroom and every single desk is full and every single desk is a lamp, right? And so that connection piece is plugging them into the socket so that they can light up a room.
Mm.
So when I'm talking and I see a table and somebody's shaking their head, I'm like, all right, that person's lit. And then I see another person, that person's lit. Okay, that person's lit. And then we get up and do an exercise, and then we get back, and then everyone's lit up, right? Then we can kind of see what it is we need to see. If we're not connected and we're sitting in a room going through training, then we're not going to learn much in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the science backs it up. I mean, we're social animals, man. We have to have some kind of human interaction or connection. I know people nowadays in the workplace, we're set up kind of like in our cubicles in our office, kind of like we go to a meeting, we barely talk to each other. We consider small talk a waste of time. But you find a formula, you find a way to no, this isn't small talk, it's big talk. Like
Mm,
we're here to talk about life. We're here about to connect. Once we connect, we're gonna light up this room and we're gonna get our job done better, more efficient, right? Whether it's a corporation that wants to be more efficient or a public school system that wants to transform students' lives, you're teaching them
mm,
by connecting your staff, making them feel like they got each other's back. They're a wolf pack instead of adversaries, right? Having workplace conflict. Now we could go together and solve this big issue we have. Create a product that the world needs, or change a life for a young person that's struggling, and help them catapult to success in the future. That's the work that you've been doing, and you have a great organization, A1 Ventures. I know you spent your career building it up after the NFL. Um, based on really your NFL experience too, I wanted to go back to that NFL experience. There's a moment you're in the locker room, you're about to go play a big game, and take us to that moment, man. Like you're there, you made it to the NFL. What happens?
Yeah, so I'm in the locker room and I'm sitting in my locker and I'm looking at my favorite team and I'm looking at my number on the jersey and I'm looking at my name like on the jersey sitting in my locker. And I was there a little bit earlier and I was just kind of getting my mind right and thinking about, man, how did I get here? Like this probably might be the time where I'm like, wow, should I really be here? Like how did I get here? And then there was a veteran, just big old shadow comes in and he stands over, hey, what's up, Brooke? I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? He's like, how you feeling? And I think about this now, it's like for him to ask me how I'm feeling in the type of work that we do, I think it was so important. He's like, how you feeling rather than how you doing or what's up? You know, how you feeling? I go, oh, I'm okay. He was like, no, how you feeling? And I'm like, feeling a little jittery. He's like, you feeling nervous? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, well, you might as well pack it up and take it home now because we don't need nervous in this locker room. He's like, I'll share this with you and I'll just tell you. He's like, when you're nervous and you're excited, it looks the same, it reads the same in your body physiologically. So anytime you feel excited, it's reading out as if you were nervous. Anytime you're feeling nervous, it's reading out if you're plugged in as if you're excited. He goes, so next time you feel nervous or somebody asks you if you're nervous, you always say you're excited. You got me? Well, yeah, ever since that day, every time I feel nervous, how you feel? I feel excited.
Mm.
I feel excited. But you don't know if and it just starts wiring me to be ready to do whatever it is rather than being in that deficit mindset of nervous. So it's that deficit versus that asset way of looking at things.
Yeah. Well, you heard it from Love Jefferson, folks. If you're out there feeling nervous, flip it.
Mm.
Flip it to I'm excited. If you got a presentation to do, you feeling nervous, flip it to I'm excited. If you are nervous to make that next move in your life, don't be nervous about it. Be excited. If you're in a moment where you're really down and you're feeling nervous because a lot of things are going wrong in your life, be excited. Be excited that you're in that rock bottom moment where there's only one way, and that's up. Um, find ways to see that light, that excitement is very important, and this moment for you in the NFL, love, really gives us a good example of how to flip our nervousness to excitement. Um, I want to ask you what happens after the NFL because a lot of times folks say wow, you're in the NFL, and like that puts you in like this historical box where that's where you remain. But your life continues. You're out of the NFL. You're changing lives now. Um, but what's that like? Because I know you've discussed it in the past in terms of being the fifth quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's we go through moments of finding our own identity. I see it in my children now, from elementary school to middle school, and now they're shaping up as they're going into high school. Then it happens in college, and then you go off into a career, something like the NFL. And then when it's done, it's like, what are you and who are you now? So I remember the moment with one of my friends. We were out, and he said, "Oh, this is my boy Love." And he's like, he used to play for the Chicago Bears. Oh yeah, you used to play football. And I just heard you used to play. And I was like, oh yeah. Like, what are you doing now? Not much. And then I had to go through a process of trying to figure out, okay, so who are you now that you were formerly an athlete? What do you want to do? What's important to you? And I always remembered just working with people, and I always had connection with kids. I'm like, okay, maybe education might be the route, for me at this time.
Mm, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So you felt like your purpose had expired,
Right.
and then you had to like recreate a new purpose, and that was education. Now, I know you came into education through bus driving, so
Yeah.
tell us that story.
Oh yeah. So at the time I was dating a gal and her mom worked for the school district and she said, "Hey, if you're interested in becoming a teacher, why don't you see what education's about and just find a classified personnel job?" And they're always posting it at the school, an aide, after school coordinator or something. So I went to the office and started looking at all the positions and then I saw bus driver. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can do that." And so I signed up to become a bus driver and I would pick the kids up in the morning. I was the first person they saw, I was the last person they saw. That's when it started kind of hitting me, how important it is to create a connection that can last their whole day. And they're looking forward to getting back on the bus and, "Hey, how was your day? What's new? Is there anything you can teach me?" I was always asking, "What can you teach me today that you learned?"
Mm.
And it got to the point where I was sending them into the library because they wanted to listen to the radio. And I wouldn't let them listen to the radio hip hop. And I'd always have like Spanish music playing. Right. And so I said, "Hey, if all of you guys go into the library and you check out a book and write a 1 paragraph report on the book, I'll turn the radio on. As a matter of fact, I'll buy you guys whatever you want to eat on Monday." And so for weeks they were, "Hey, you do your homework? No, you got to do your homework." So they would go into the library, they'd come out, then one week they all finally did it. They went in, checked it out, they handed me the paper, and on the way home they listened to the music that they wanted. Following day, the librarian comes out. She's like, "Are you Mr. Love?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Are you the one having these kids come into the library checking out these books?" And I'm thinking like, "Yeah, is that okay?" She goes, "Have you ever thought about becoming an educator?" And I'm like, actually I have." She's like, "I think you'd be a great teacher, motivator, or something like that." And that's when kind of everything started moving towards working with people.
That's incredible, love. I mean, what a amazing story. I mean, just all around, right? The work that you do and the way in which you carry yourself in an impeccable way in terms of making sure people around you understand that, hey, there's two ways to be in the world, right? You could see yourself really glass half empty, glass half full, and you're living a life where the glass is half full, and you're definitely understanding the need that humanity has to get in that perspective, get in that
Mhm.
mindset. I know you talk a lot about uh, that the work you do is about helping people understand and conceptualize and reflect on things they don't get to on a regular basis understand or conceptualize or reflect on. But you have a great quote from your daughter
Mhm.
that really explains what you do. Will you tell us that quote?
Yeah, so she asked me, "Daddy, what do you do for work?" And I said, "Oh, I do team building trainings." And she's like, "But what do you do?" Like, "Oh, we do activities where people have to figure things out or they have an opportunity to collaborate and work together to learn more about each other." She's like, "I don't get it." And I'm like, "Well, I help people notice like some things that they're not recognizing that allows them to try to do things differently, as they move forward." She's like, "I don't get it." She goes, "Oh, I got it." He's like, "You help people notice things they don't notice, they're not noticing."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Yeah, I help people notice things they don't notice, they're not noticing." That's it in a nutshell.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's powerful, man. That for how old is your daughter?
She was 9 at the time.
Whoa,
Yeah, she's my
yeah,
14-year
that's
old.
deep.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't notice that, and sometimes it's our purpose we're not noticing.
Yeah.
Right? It's like right there, we know our purpose. Many human beings that I guide, people I support and give advice to, man, they know their purpose. It's just me helping them identify it among all the other jumble, all the other chaos they might have going in their life. And then they can pinpoint to what their purpose is. But the purpose is there, they're just not noticing it.
Right.
All right. So if you could give one piece of advice to someone searching for their purpose, what would that be?
Uh, my advice, and this is the strongest, the most important way that you should just view your life, and I'll stand on it,
Mm,
is you already have it. You were born with it. You already have everything you need to be able and achieve the type of life you need.
mm,
Now, it's just up to you to put yourself in the right places that helps you unlock those things
mhm,
and chip away from those stories that make you feel that you're something. Remember, know who you are, or the world will tell you who you are. So look in the mirror and say, okay, who am I? If you don't know, then go on that journey. But you
mhm,
already have it. There's something there. And luckily for myself, um, there were some people that helped me along the way that I didn't know that they were helping me.
mm. There you have it, folks. Mr. Love Jefferson, I appreciate you being here. Remember, folks, that positive self concept is very important. Seeing the world in a very positive way, the optimism is crucial for that next step to success. But along the way, you got to build your wolf pack. You can't be a lone wolf because then you end up getting yourself into trouble. But with the wolf pack, if you get in trouble, there's someone there to back you up. And in this case, I've been blessed to have Love Jefferson as one of my wolf pack members that I could rely on, that I could trust, and that's important, right? As he mentioned, having human connection that raises your oxytocin, it reduces your stress, and nowadays, so many of us are going through stress. So if you're feeling stressed out, go find that wolf pack. Tell yourself you got this. Love, appreciate you being here.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Until next time, this is Sueños to Success with Dr. Victor Rios. Take care, everyone.